Target 7 told you how the state's Children, Youth and Families Department broke its promises to New Mexico children.
Now we're learning how the agency is not following a settlement agreement they made with hundreds of children who were placed in foster homes or chose to live on the streets. Rudy Bolt was taken to a CYFD office when he was 12, and they placed him into foster care. But there were problems with the families, and when he was 14, he claims he was forced to stay on the streets and even told us he started sleeping at his high school.
They weren't really sure what to do with me. I had some behavioral issues. They were like, we have no placements. Is there a place you could stay at your friend's house or whatever? And no, well, okay, well, try to figure something out.
An attorney we spoke to says there are hundreds like Rudy represented in a class action lawsuit the state settled that in 2020 with the hope it would change CYFD. An independent auditor found the agency violated its agreement and subjected children to irreparable harm.
It was pretty damning findings by the arbiters, and it's significant because it points out problems with staffing, CYFD staffing. It points out problems with CYFD implementing policies to benefit the children and families who are relying on it.
And tonight we have an update.
The head of CYFD sat down with Target 7 to respond to the ruling.
I would definitely like to be able to solve some of these issues and continue doing the work without ending up in court.
Teresa Casados is in charge of the Embattled Children's Youth and Families Department.
Anytime you're talking about a child and the outcomes for them, of course, we want to try to fix that immediately, because it does. Every day that we're not fixing it, there are kids in our system that maybe aren't getting some of the services that they need.
Known as the Kevin S. Settlement, in 2020, under Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, CYFD and the Human Services Department settled a class action lawsuit agreeing to hundreds of changes to prevent kids from being forced to live on the streets because there was nowhere for them to go.
These young people who had been in multiple placements, spending the night in shelters instead of with families, foster families, spending the night on the floor of the office, not receiving their well child checks, not receiving the education.
The settlement was touted as groundbreaking, with hopes it would change the troubled agency. Sarah Krecka was one of the attorneys on the case.
We have yet to see the type of development of those foundational goals, first-year goals, required to change our system.
Just last week, a court-appointed arbiter ruled CYFD wasn't doing what it agreed to in this settlement. An 8-day hearing was held, and the arbiter went as far as saying children in CYFD custody are subject to, quote, irreparable harm.
I believe the department is making every effort that it can to meet those requirements. I also believe it's not in the time frame that people want to see.
The arbiter found the department had not increased its caseworkers and actually implemented a hiring freeze at one point. Workloads had not improved, and supervisors were still taking cases. And CYFD failed to maintain a supply of foster homes.
Anything in the report you disagree with that was brought up by the arbiter?
There was not.
So you agree with these findings?
I do. And it's really focused on the same issues that we've been working on since, I took over a little over a year ago. And that is really staffing and training and recruitment and retention of foster families.
Casados said there were numerous issues that stood in the way. She says COVID set them back a few years, and the way the legislature structured its funding prevented them from spending money the way they wanted to.
A lot of it is very, very specific. And the language that they put in really kind of ties our hands in what we can do with that.
Money is something the arbiter says CYFD has to figure out. They gave the agency an April deadline to secure proper funding from the legislature this session. Casados says there were some things in the report that showed the agency was making some progress.
We're making progress at the department. Of course, it's not at the speed that everybody would like to see, but as they say, slow and steady.
Casados told us she does not plan on appealing the arbiter's ruling and that CYFD can meet the arbiter's demands.